Good evening, students. So today we'll start another new topic that is recently included in our syllabus, that is nutrition. I am Dr. Minal Khan, Assistant Professor, Department of Biochemistry, and today my topic is different aspects of nutrition. Now, before going to the main topic, we have to share the objectives of today's class. So, after end of the session, we will be able to define nutrition. That means what nutrition is. Then we will know the different types of food, that is classification of food, and the role of different types of food in our nutrition, that is dietary fibers, dietary fats, dietary proteins, and their chemical importance. Now, coming to the definition, that is the first part of nutrition, what nutrition is. So, actually, nutrition is a part of bioscience that deals with the process of taking food, their constituent, their utilization for metabolism, energy generation, and which energy ultimately helps with the growth, development, and repairing of different parts of the body. So actually, nutrition is basically deals with the different types of foods, their main constituents, how they are, mm, how they are helping, how they are utilized through metabolism, how that they are generating different types of byproducts, how they are generating energy, and that byproducts and energy ultimately helps for our growth, development, and repair. So this is nutrition is a part of bioscience. Now, the classification of food. Food can be classified into basically two groups. One is energy generating foods, that is carbohydrate, fat, protein, and for the growth and development and repair. The foods are required for growth, development, and repairing work. They are mineral, vitamins, essential fatty acids, essential amino acids, etc. Now, dietary carbohydrates. They are very much important in our diet. Now, what is the primary role of carbohydrate? The primary role of carbohydrates is to provide energy. There is a direct linkage between carbohydrate intake and obesity. If one can take more and more in carbohydrate, they will become more and more obese. So dietary carbohydrates can be of three types. They are simple sugars, that is mono and disaccharides, monosaccharides and disaccharides, and complex, that polysaccharides and the fiber. Now, the dietary fiber is a very much important topic for our nutrition topic. Why? Basically, they are non-digestible, non-starch carbohydrate, and also lignin. So dietary fibers basically are non-starch carbohydrate and lignin. Basically, they are not digested in our GI tract. There are two types of dietary fibers. One is soluble fibers, another is insoluble fiber. Now, soluble fibers basically resistant to digestion. They are not digested in GI tract and not absorbed also. Actually, they are partially undergoes bacterial fermentation. But in insoluble fibers, they are neither digested nor absorbed, nor they undergo bacterial fermentation. They actually passes through the large intestine and they remain unchanged through the whole tract. Now, what is the main characteristic? They can absorb actually 10 to 15 times of water than its own weight. So they actually increase the bulk of stool. Now, dietary requirement, there is 22 to 25 gram per day in case of female and 30 to 40 gram per day for male. Now, what is the advantage? What is the utilization of these dietary fibers? Number one, they actually increase the bulk of stool. Already we have discussed. Now, what is the effect? As there is increase in the bulk of stool, they increase the bowel movement and they prevent the constipation. And another thing, they also prevent certain cancer of GI tract. So they are helpful both in preventing constipation and also certain cancer of GI tract. Number two, the soluble dietary fibers delays the gastric emptying. So in case of diabetes mellitus, the glucose level never goes to the peak in a small time gap. So what happens? The patient's craving for food is decreased. So actually, if the patient is not taking food more frequently, what happens? The glucose level will be also controlled. So gastric emptying, if it delayed, then it is helpful or advantageous for diabetic patients. So actually soluble fiber does the same thing for the diabetic patient. Now third is the increase bile excretion and decrease bile reabsorption. Thus, they reduce the LDL cholesterol levels, so the chance of CHD is also reduced. Now, another main important thing, that is glycemic response and glycemic index. What are they? Now, some carbohydrate-rich food causes rapid rise and steep fall of glucose level after ingestion. So, if you are taking that kind of carbohydrate, they are rich in glucose. What happens? Certainly, glucose level will increases and reaches to the peak, and then rapid decline. And some other show a slow rise with gradual decline. So there are basically two types of glycemic response. One is rapid rise in the glucose level and rapid fall. Another is slow rise and slow fall. So what is glycemic index now? Now glycemic index or GI basically is a scale that ranks all the carbohydrate-rich foods in 0 to 100 scale depending upon their glycemic response. So depending upon the glycemic response, any carbohydrate food can be classified in these scales. The scale runs from 0 to 100 rank, and depending upon this scale, we can classify foods. This is called glycemic index. Now, food with low GI improves the glycemic control of a diabetic individual. It actually increases the slows down the absorption of glucose. So there is slow rise and slow fall of glucose level in the body. So it creates a sense of satiety and fullness for a longer period of time. Thus, reduce the caloric intake in case of diabetic patient, and that is helpful for that kind of patient also. Now look at the uh, graph for glycemic index. In the y-axis, we have plotted blood glucose level in mg per dl. In x-axis is time, that is minutes after ingestion of food. Now look at the red colored curve. It is showing the high glycemic index type effect. There is a rapid rise and steep fall. And in blue colored, it is low glycemic index. It is slow rise and slow fall. So low glycemic index curve. Now, we are moving from carbohydrate to the fats. Now, dietary fats are very much important here. Dietary fats influence the CHD. Cardiovascular disease is increased, but they have less significant role in patient obesity. This main culprit is cholesterol, we know. So cholesterol has got two sources in our body. One we are getting from the diet, they are exogenous cholesterol, and in liver, cholesterol is produced. It is called endogenous cholesterol. So high level of cholesterol actually correlates with the increased chance of cardiovascular disorder. But more precisely, it is seen with increased LDL level. Already you know LDL cholesterol and HDL cholesterol. So LDL cholesterol basically are bad cholesterol. They actually increase the atherosclerosis, they increase the peripheral cholesterol distribution, and HDL cholesterol basically are good cholesterol. So if there is more and more LDL cholesterol and less HDL cholesterol, what happens? There will be chance of CHD will be increased. Triglyceride has no effect in CHD. So dietary fats mainly comprises of triacylglycerol. There are two types. There are two fatty acids. There is saturated fatty acids that contains no double bond. It will be a straight ring, straight chain structure. It increases LDL cholesterol, thus chances of cardiovascular disorder is also increased. And unsaturated fatty acid, that has a fatty acid having at least one double bond or more. So they can be again two types: monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. In monounsaturated, what is it? Fatty acids. They contains only one double bond when the plant oils are rich in MUFA. But polyunsaturated fatty acid contains more than two double bonds. So PUFA can be of two types: omega-3 fatty acids and omega-6 fatty acids, depending upon the position of double bond from the methyl end of the fatty acid. So basically, it is the position of the double bond that gives the nomenclature omega-3 and omega-6. So Polyunsaturated fatty acid again are of two types, omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids are linoleic acid, icosapentaenoic acid, docoxaxanoic acid. It is abundant mostly in fish and some vegetarian sources. Rich sources of omega-6 fatty acids are oil of palm, soybean, rapeseed, and sunflower. Foods abundant in omega-6 fatty acids are eggs, whole grain, nuts, pumpkin, pine nuts, walnuts. Major food source of EPA and DHA are fish oil. So here is the structure of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. So look at the omega-3 carbon. It is the third position from the peripheral methyl group, and in case of omega-6, it is the sixth carbon from the peripheral methyl group. So these are the structure of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acid. Now there are certain things that what are the advantages of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acid, and also MUFA and PUFA. In the case of omega-3 fatty acids, they have a strong anti-inflammatory property that decreases the risk for heart diseases, Alzheimer's disease. They also increase the fusion, they boost brain health. Now, MUFA and PUFA ritual, instead of saturated fats and other non-healthy fat, the risk of heart disease decreases. MUFA are good to improving the insulin level, and they also keeps the blood sugar level under control. Omega-3 fatty acids are rich in PUFA, that is PUFA. They promote the mood and elevate the depression and anxiety. So they basically act as a mood stabilizer. Omega-3 fatty acid promote the normal fetal development, and MUFA, PUFA intake as per recommendation help in cell and nerve maintenance and aid in also digestion. So there are so many advantages of MUFA and PUFA. We have to take omega-3, omega-6 fatty acids and MUFA, PUFA according to need of the body. So they are very much important for our examination purpose also. They often comes as short notes. So please remember MUFA, PUFA, and also omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Now we are next moving to another important thing, that is trans fatty acids. Trans fat or trans fatty acids are unsaturated fatty acids that come from either natural or industrial sources. They are mainly from industrial sources. Naturally occurring trans fatty acids come from ruminants, that is cows and sheep, but industrial, that is from dairy products, trans fatty acids are formed in industrial process. There is an addition of hydrogen to the vegetable oil that will convert the liquid into the solid, resulting in partially hydrogenated oil. That is very much harmful to our body. Now look at the trans and cis fatty acids. Both are unsaturated fatty acids. In case of trans, the remaining portions of the straight chain, they remain on the opposite side of each other around the double bond. So double bond is the pivotal role here, as a pivotal role here, and around the double bond, the chains are present opposite to each other. Then it is called trans fatty acid. If they are on the same side, they are called cis fatty acid. So it is picturized here. Now, what is the disadvantage of trans fatty acid intake? If you take high trans fat, what happens? There is a risk of death from any causes. That is 34% coronary heart diseases death by 28%, coronary heart disease by 21%. This is highly due to the effect of lipid levels that increases actually LDL, that is bad cholesterol, and decreases HDL, so good cholesterol. So there are so many deaths activated due to intake of industrial produced trans fat acids. So we should be cautious regarding intaking of this kind of trans fatty acids. So here is a summary, different types of fat and their metabolic effects and how they can help in our body. So it is taken from illustrated biochemistry looking for. So first we are looking trans fatty acid. What is the effect? It increases LDL, that is bad cholesterol, and decreases good cholesterol is decreased. So there will be certainly there is increase in the incidence of coronary heart disease. CHD is increased. Now saturated fatty acid, what is the effect? There is no effect or little effect on HDL. So good cholesterol is remain unchanged, but increase the LDL, that is bad cholesterol increase. So incidence of coronary heart disease is more, and there is risk for prostate and colon cancer. So We should be cautious regarding trans fatty acid and saturated fatty acid. Both are injurious to our health. Now comes the two good things, that is monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fatty acid. If you take monounsaturated fatty acid in our diet, what happens? LDL level will be decreased, but HDL remain unchanged or increased. So there is a good effect. So bad cholesterol are removed and good cholesterol are maintained or increased. So there is certainly incidence of coronary disease will be decreased. Now, what is the effect of polyunsaturated omega-6 fatty acids? They decrease both LDL and both HDL. So bad and good both cholesterol are decreases. So also they decrease the incidence of coronary heart disease. Now, the effect of polyunsaturated fatty acid is omega-3 fatty acid. They have little or no effect on LDL or HDL, but they are doing certain other things. They actually suppress cardiac arrhythmia, reduce serum triacylglycerol, decrease the tendency for thrombosis, lower blood pressure, reduce infection. So many things are happening with the use of this omega-3 fatty acid. All are advantageous to our body and health. So actually there is a decreased incidence of coronary heart disease, and also risk of sudden cardiac death also decreased. So we are ending today's class here. Now we are moving to our objective. Now at the end of the session, we can define nutrition. We know what is nutrition. It is a part of the bioscience that relates to certain types of food, their constituents, their effect, their utilization, how they can maintain the body, the health in growth and development. So now we know the different types of food, that is energy generating food and food that is related to maintenance and health and body. We know the different types of dietary fiber, how they are advantageous to our body, how they decrease the constipation, decrease certain GI cancer. Now we have already learned about dietary fats also. Different types of dietary fats, that is bad dietary fat, trans fatty acid, saturated fatty acid. We have to exclude from diet, and we have to increase in our diet NUFA and PUFA. They are very much helpful, and we have discussed in nutshell how they are helpful in our body. So in next class we'll discuss the other things, that is dietary fats and their clinical importance and nutrition. So we are ending here. Thank you, students, for your listening.